Hello everyone and welcome to the rest day of the Norway Chess 2025, and I received a message from a subscriber saying that although all of the action is currently in Norway, other places in the world also have exciting chess being played, and he sent me this game. It's from the Dutch Cup final, and it's a game between an international master and a grandmaster, Arthur Pijpers versus Hugo and Hertog. And even though Arthur Pijpers is an international master, he won all of his grandmaster norms. He achieved his last one last year, and he only needs to cross 2500 to receive his grandmaster title. He also played in the challenger section of Tata Steel this year, and it was a fine tournament, but due to the heavy competition, he ranked 11th in the tournament. But that all pales in comparison to the quality of this game. Once upon a time, I held this series called the Sorcery series, where you just couldn't believe the moves that were being played, and I would maybe even count this game among it. If you guys agree, I will add it to the playlist of my Sorcery series. So yeah, let's check it out and try and guess who wins this game. At any point in the game, try and guess. So let's check it out. Arthur Pijpers opens with pawn to e4, and I forgot to mention Hugo ten Hertog. He's the first grandmaster from Utrecht in Netherlands. We have pawn to c6, the Caro-Kann defense. d4, we have pawn to d5 and the advanced variation, pawn to e5, so you already know that it's going to be a very sharp game. Bishop to f5, and whenever I announce a sharp game in the advanced Caro-Kann, you guys think it's going to be the bayonet attack, but no. We have knight to f3, pawn to e6, and now bishop to e2. So the calm short variation, we have knight to e7 and castles kingside, and the pretty standard reply, pawn to c5, advancing the pawn all the way. And this is up until this point all theory. There are hundreds and hundreds of games in the database from strong tournaments. We have pawn to c4, knight b to c6, and now there are three standard replies here. White either goes for d captures on c5, or you develop the knight normally via the c3 square, or knight to a3. I believe this is the second most popular reply. We have pawn to a6 now, maybe with some ideas of captures, and then you advance the pawn to b5, but also you're just stopping knight b5 to d6, which would be very annoying. We have d captures on c5, and as white allowed it, of course, Hugo goes for pawn to d4, grabs more space, and we're only on move 9, and he already has a passed pawn. And there are a couple of games where queen to a4 was played, also bishop to d3 is a known move, but here we have queen to b3, which the engine is a little bit silly here, saying that it's an inaccuracy. Says, okay, it's maybe only a little bit worse than queen to a4, but I don't think it's an inaccuracy, especially after you see what happens in the game. And of course, it is now as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. We have queen to c7 developing. You want to develop your queen and castle queenside. That's definitely the case, but the queen should be developed via the d7 square. Now, after queen to c7, look at what Arthur plays. He moves the queen to a4, sort of wasting a tempo, because queen to a4 not only was it a known move, also maybe a little bit better, but it was apparently enough to confuse Hugo a little bit. Now the knight is pinned, and also the queen is not on the d file defending the d pawn. So there's the threat of knight captures on d4, and you might be thinking, well, okay, what's the problem? We're just going to castle and defend the pawn. That's exactly what Hugo did, and now Arthur played bishop to d2. Now, you know me, I would always play b4 in pretty much any position. Here the engine even says it is by far the best move, but Arthur has a pretty unique idea. After bishop to and to show you why bishop to d2, knight to b5 is Arthur's idea, but he has to prepare it. If you play knight to b5 right away, then black can very confidently capture, and after you capture, play queen a5, as the queen on a4 is undefended, and if you trade, then the knight just captures. And if you move the queen, then you can even play queen b4, and black will gladly give back material in order to stabilize the game. So that's why bishop to d2 not only stops anything from coming to a5, but also if the knight moves, you can play bishop to a5 yourself. So very tricky idea. Now we have knight to g6, and only now knight to b5. And what can you do here? The question is, do you capture the knight, or do you just move the queen? And if you move the queen, where to move the queen? Well, you have to play queen to d7. It wasn't played in the game. And I'm just going to show you what you have to allow in order to, keep playing. You basically have to allow the knight to come to d6. Now captures, while you can do it, I mean, allowing this pawn to be on d6, that's as good as resigning. So you would have to move the king, and now after, let's say, rook f to e1, as you know that captures will happen on the e file, let's say knight c captures on e5, or you will trade queens, for example, captures, rook captures on d7, knight captures, pawn captures, let's say knight captures on e5, knight captures, and now maybe some bishop to f5, you attack the knight, maybe you can move the bishop, put more pressure on the knight, if f6, for example, bishop to d3. It's a very, very complicated game where white should always be a little bit better, but black is definitely fighting. It's an open board. White has the bishop pair. Black has, both white and black have a set of doubled pawns. You know, you can play it. But after a captures on b5, it is very, very difficult to find useful moves for black. We have c captures on b5, and now knight c captures on e5. And what do you play here? I mean, we will now be having, I'm not going to make it a pause the video moment because we would have 20 of them, but I'm going to show you, you know, what was played and what could have been played. Here, bishop to a5 was played. And I mean, why wouldn't you play this? It looks like a brilliant move, but it's actually a move that allows black into the game. The move you have to play is pawn to b6. Doesn't look like much, but the thing is, if black offers a queen trade, you have bishop to b5. You can never capture on c5 because, well, the rook just comes to the c1 square. And if you move the queen, then knight captures on d4, and white wins purely via material. And you know, black's position is just bad. You can't allow knight b5, then knight a7, check wins the game. So you would have to give up the exchange here, captures, and you know, white will just have immense pressure here. You can just do whatever. You can, you know, put a bishop on c3, start advancing those pawns, rook a1, rook c1, and black falls apart fairly quickly. So after this move, bishop to a5 was played. So okay, black gets chance, but queen to b8 was played. Now there is a move that sort of allows, not sort of, it allows black to fully remain in the game, but again, it's incredibly difficult to spot. You have to play bishop to c2. And now the point is, if you move the queen, let's say you go queen to b4, then bishop captures on c5 even wins for black. There's no good continuation that white can play now. You gave up the pawn, you're going to have to trade queens, and that's it. Or, you know, you go back with queen to d2, and then b6, and black is out of any trouble whatsoever. So what you would have to do after bishop to c2 is simply trade. Bishop captures on c7, you would have bishop captures on a4, and now, okay, you will capture on d8. For example, king captures on d8, knight captures on e5, knight captures, rook f to e1, and so on and so on. You know, you can capture pretty much whatever. You can go after the knight here, knight to g4. Black even can put some pressure on the white king, for example, rook ac1, bishop b6. Now you kick away the knight, h3, knight f6, and yeah, it's a game. Black is not worse, and you're playing it. But after bishop to a5, queen to b8 was played, thinking that white will just capture on d8, and indeed that is the absolute best that white should do. However, in the game, knight captures on d4 was played, which makes it again much more interesting. Now, bishop captures on c5 should be played, but queen to a8. You're already feeling the time pressure. 14 minutes versus 18 minutes, and the bishop is now pinned, so he doesn't allow bishop captures on d8 as the queen on a4 is undefended. And what do you play here? Well, the best way to play this is to just get rid of this knight, because you always have to worry about captures, is to capture and then just move the queen. Queen b4, you defend the c5 pawn, you're now threatening to capture, the rooks are coming to c1, you can play rook c1, rook c3, double up, and then, you know, at a very favorable moment, advance that pawn to c6 without hanging your queen. That would be ideal. But here, knight to b3 was played. Also playing against opponent's time, you're just defending c5, defending on a5, now your queen can move, and you're going to activate those rooks. So okay, bishop to e7, black also gets a moment's rest. We have rook a to c1, and rook to d5. Here, the bishop to d3 is just incredibly strong. But this bishop to... First, we had bishop to c2 as a defensive resource, offering a queen trade. But now bishop to d3 in pretty much every position that we will be discussing is a key defensive resource for black. Here, rook to d5 was played. Okay, we have rook to c3. We all know what Artur is doing. He wants to double up on the c file. King to b8. As you know, the doubling on the c file will occur. Rook f to c1, and now rook to c8. Finally, I mean, you've been waiting so long to activate all of your pieces, and now you get a chance to activate, but it's not the best move. The best move is still bishop to d3, and it's just very, very hard for white to make a move here because, well, you don't want to capture, then the knight comes into the game. If you move, black can just trade. For example, bishop to g5, you harass the rook. You just don't allow that pawn to be pushed. And after, let's say, rook comes to c2, you will go knight to f4, and all sorts of nasty threats. Now the e2 square is covered, rook to d1 will be checkmate, and black is just, all of a sudden, black has a winning position. So, while not winning in itself, maybe white can, you know, defend with some magic moves, but it would be very, very hard. He misses it, plays rook to c8, and now is the key moment where you have to push. And probably if I ask you now, you know, I'm not going to ask you because I know that that's the move you'll play. If I ask you to pause the video, you would play the move. Everyone would play it. Your uncle would play it, no doubt about it. He would play it, you know, blindfold. And but it's easier said than done. It's a move where, okay, let's say c6 is played, and let's say black captures, and black goes queen a7. Now, putting some pressure here, you know, there are definitely some threats for black as well. How do you play this? For example, pawn to c7 check, king to a8. Even this, it's very easy to calculate all of this when you're playing the game. Even with 5 minutes on the clock, these are extremely strong players. They will find this instantly. But you have to see the next move. Without the next move, you don't have a win. It's a position where only this one move is winning. So you have to see all of this plus this one move in order to actually advance the pawn to c6 in that position. So try it out. What would you play here as white? You have to put black in sort of a zugzwang, and you will do that by playing rook to d1. And here black does not have a good move. There's just no good move that black can make. Whatever you try, even if you try to give up a little bit of material, let's say you go rook captures on a5, then knight captures on a5, and again you're without a move. Not much you can play this. And the problem is, if you play bishop to c5, which is kind of the move you always want to play, then the rook on d1, you have rook to d8, and that's pretty much it. There's no defense against this. So you could play that, but you wouldn't really have a great time. So after this king to a8 move, and if you actually played rook to d1, what could black play? Well, black could capture the rook on d1. Okay, let's say captures, and now let's say bishop to d6, you go after the pawn here. Now the problem is knight to d4, and again black has no moves. There's no useful move you can make, and there's no stopping knight to b5. If you capture, white doesn't care. Knight to b5 attacks the queen, attacks the bishop, and now if queen captures on a5, you simply eliminate the defender, and then it's a free queen. The queen of course cannot capture, the queen is pinned, and that's it. Rook captures, you're going to capture the queen with check. You also capture on c7, and now you quickly checkmate the black king. So yeah, like I said, you know, in a position like this, you will say, yes, of course, c6 wins the game. Everyone would play that. But no, if you don't see rook to d1, you can't play it. I mean, you could play it and then hope that something magically happens, but usually that's not how chess is played. So here, pawn to h3 was played. It's definitely a useful move, as it gives the king some breathing room. Also, you stop knight to g4, which could be a problem if the pawn is pushed to c6. But it also gives black a chance to consolidate. But black has to play the move that black has been refusing to play for the entire game, and that is bishop to d3. Also, bishop to g5 is nice. Bishop to d3 is just beautiful. But he finds the second best, bishop to g5. Maybe not even second best. Maybe it's equally as good, maybe just more difficult to play. And now we have pawn to c6. We have pawn to b6, inviting bishop captures, but the queen on a4 is still undefended. And now look at this, queen to b4. What kind of a move is this? And what is black to play here? Again, you know, staring you in the face, you would say, well, what is white's threat really? Can't we just enjoy a free bishop here? That is exactly the case. I mean, you have to take it, but with 2 minutes on the clock, you know, you just don't want to suffer, you know, at the hands of a brilliancy because you wanted to take material. But you have to play it. And now the problem is, once knight captures on a5 is played, You might be thinking, okay, b6, b7, game over, but no, you can't really play it. And that's one of the reasons the rook came to d5. So once b6 happens, the knight on a5 is hanging. And if, let's say, bishop captures on c1, you don't want to waste time by recapturing. You can't play b6. You might play c7 check. No problem, rook captures. And if rook captures on c7, king captures, b6 check. Now you play it with tempo. King b8, there's no continuation. Nothing you play here will produce any sort of, an attacking continuation. So, yeah. That's why after queen to b4, b captures on a5 is the way to go. But these guys, just keep surprising each other and confusing each other, obviously, and bishop to e7 is played, which is a nice move, but it allows white to continue the attack. Pawn to c7 with check, king to b7, and now this is perhaps the most fascinating position of the game. There is only one move that doesn't lose the game for white, but also it's so complicated that it's very, very probable that it will win the game for white. So have at it. While I give you a second, while I give you a couple of seconds, what do you play here for Artur? Yes, the only move that does not lose the game here is rook to c6. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, you can capture the rook, you can capture the queen. Nothing you do really works. If you capture the queen, then comes rook captures on b6, and if you capture the queen, it's a quick draw. That's the thing. You have to play king a7 and then rook a6 check, and then you just repeat, and it's a repetition of moves. So it's basically a saving move for white. But Hugo does not want a draw. He does not capture the queen. He actually plays queen to a7. And if you decide to capture the rook with knight captures, then b captures on c6. And if you go to a7, then of course bishop captures is checkmate. And if you capture on c7, then again bishop captures with check. You have to go to b8 and then bishop to c5 check, and that's all there is. King to c7 and queen to b6 will be checkmate. So not a lot of good options here. You can lose by capturing the rook. You can draw by capturing the queen. Is there a path to victory? No, there isn't. There isn't, but Hugo, with a minute and 21 seconds on the clock, decides to look for one. He plays queen to a7, and now the position is completely winning. And again, I don't know if you guys, I'm not going to even ask you. If you want, you can pause the video at any moment and try to find the next move, but I will just show it to you. The move is queen to c3. You get your queen out of harm's way, and now there's a terrible threat here. So what is the threat? Well, the threat is, let's say, okay, what is the threat? Let's play queen to a8, where the queen came from. The threat is you want to capture on b6, and then after, let's say, king a7, you can even play rook to a6 check, and after king b7, you can even sacrifice the queen. Knight captures, you're going to play b captures, and this is now checkmate, as of course you have not forgotten about our good friend the bishop on e2 defending the rook on a6, and pretty much all of the other lines end terribly for black. So here knight to f4 was played. Okay, threatening knight captures on e2, which would fork the king and the queen. That would be a terrible way for white to ruin the game, and the bishop to f1. It's the only winning move, but not a terribly difficult one to spot. Bishop to d3, finally, Hugo plays it, but now to little avail. We have rook captures on b6 with check, and if you move the king, of course, just rook a6 wins the queen, so that's pretty much it. So here, after rook captures, you have to give up the queen. At least this way you're getting back some material. Bishop captures, and now rook captures on b5. We have bishop back to d4, and it's still incredibly complicated, but not a lot you can do here. For example, you cannot capture on c7, that pawn is just a monster, and you don't have time to prepare to capture it. We have bishop to b4 attacking the queen, knight to c5 check, not allowing anything to go wrong. If you capture on c7 with the king now, then pretty much anything, knight a6 with a double check, you also pick up the bishop, you're going to win material. And that's game over. So here, bishop captures on c5 was played. Bishop captures, we have bishop captures on f1. King captures, and now knight e to d3, attacking the rook on c1. And, hoping that if somehow you can eliminate that c7 pawn, you will have enough material to maybe hold a draw. But bishop back to e3. giving up the exchange just to keep the pawn on c7. We have knight captures on c1, and now bishop captures on f4, keeping an eye on that pawn. And yeah, there's no way out of it. With the pawn on c7, there's just no way for black to get back into the game. Knight captures on a2 was played. Now queen to f3 with check. King to b6. We have queen to e3 with check. King to b7. Both players playing on increment. Queen to f3 check, and here black could have continued perhaps with a bit more resilience, but he played king to a7, and I mean, it doesn't matter what black plays, objectively it is winning for white, but now queen to a3 check, and here Hugo and Hertog resigned, as there is nothing more to be done here. On the next move, whatever you do, king b7, you're going to lose the knight, and now it's queen and bishop versus two rooks, and a beautiful pass pawn on c7. So yeah, beautiful game. Thank you for recommending it. It was definitely quite a refreshment from Norway Chess. Even though the games at Norway Chess are spectacular, I mean, it's hard to imagine, you know, one of them being played to this extent, because okay, mistakes were made, but you know, mistakes are what allow brilliancies, and I mean, this game was just wow. Yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So, you know, if you have some cool tournament or, you know, a cool game being played in your village, feel free to send it over. I will definitely show it, you know, if it resembles something like this. I would like to thank Nidi Kumar, Marcus Shib, Marius Klimek, Juan, and Robert Arathun for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check upon your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Hopefully something like this. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And the rest of your rest day.